Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, I'm calling your name, oh Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk on your favorite channel, Huda TV. I'm your host, Arkham Rashid. In this episode, we will be speaking about leadership skills. Now, I know you might be thinking that, well, I'm not a leader, or I'm not in charge of a group, I'm not the president of an organization. What does this episode have to do with me? Well, we will be speaking about skills that each and every individual should have, meaning that a person might not be in charge of an organization, but he still has people that he's in charge of, such as his kids. So let's start off by welcoming our guest to the episode. Brother, am I right? If you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. Go ahead, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
My name is Bilal Abdullah. I'm from the United States of America, from Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm a teacher working at international school here in Cairo, Egypt, and I'm also studying here and just enjoying myself in this wonderful country.
All right, Bilal, welcome to the show. It's always wonderful having conversations with you here on Let's Talk.
Thank you.
Brother next to him, if you can introduce yourself, give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. Go ahead, inshallah.
I am Omar Khalid. I'm an Egyptian citizen, and I work as a freelance translator.
All right, Omar, it's wonderful having you guys on.
It's my pleasure.
We usually have this crew, and we're always having wonderful conversations. If I can go over to this side, brother, if you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. Go ahead, inshallah.
My name is Idris, and I'm from America. And the same for me. I'm teaching English in an international school, and I'm also studying Arabic and memorizing Quran, and trying to benefit while I'm here.
All right, Idris, welcome to the show, and it's once again it's wonderful having you guys. I say this every week, but this is for the viewers that are tuning in for the first time, so they know who you guys are. Brother next to him, if we can get your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name's Idris Tawfiq. I'm from the UK, London, and I'm here with my family and trying to benefit all of us, inshallah.
All right, Ilyas, once again, welcome to the show. So guys, let's start off with something very important, which is the importance of leadership. So why is leadership important in society and in general for every one of us to have these skills? Why is it important? Bilal, if we can start with you, inshallah.
I would think, well, first I want to start off that we have to remember the most important of leaders and examples and guides for us is the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We have to set him, remember he's the first example for us. I think that we should be, that another thing is we have to remember that being leaders ourselves, that to be a good leader means that we should be respectful to others. That to remember that maybe we have siblings under us. That we should, being a leader is that, as you said, it's not that we are necessarily being a leader of an organization, that we're in charge, that we're a manager. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a manager of a restaurant or like at McDonald's or anything like that, but in our actions, that the people who see us necessarily, like as Muslims, that in our conduct, our code of conduct, and how we are as people, and our character on a daily basis, that we are something to look up to. Not that we are, as some people might say, are you a goody two-shoes, are you perfect? No, we are human beings, we make mistakes. But the overall, that we are, should I say, a good example. I know that may sound kind of
cheesy,
generic.
Yeah, cheesy, generic. Yeah, kind of convoluted. Maybe in the next part of the show, I'll be able to explain more what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, when we get into some of the qualities, maybe you can elaborate on some of the qualities you have.
Exactly.
Umar, if we can come over to you, what do you think is the importance of leadership?
In my opinion, leadership is very important in two levels: effectiveness and efficiency. Because if we have materials, resources, and people, we cannot get and reach to a goal, or we are not going to waste our times, except if we have leadership that can get us, two things: to do things right and to do the right things. To do things right That's the efficiency. That we don't waste materials, we don't waste effort unnecessarily. And to do the right thing, which is, of course, according to us as Muslims, we have principles. We don't do anything and that's it. Of course, we have principles. So the leader here is responsible for these two things.
Yeah, and that's a very good way to put it, both of those phrases there. And I think it's very important for us to remember, like I said in the beginning, that whenever we speak of leadership, and like Bilal re-emphasized on, is that it's not about being a leader of some sort of organization. It's about having skills to lead whoever you are responsible for. And there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in which he says, كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ, meaning that each and every one of you is in charge of somebody and something. Yes. And you guys are responsible for those that you are in charge of. And I think if we just take this hadith into perspective, we can carry out this conversation with this in mind, that no matter who you are, you might be thinking and watching this episode thinking, well, I'm not in charge of anybody. There is somebody that you're responsible for. It might be even your parents. Yes. You have responsibility towards your parents. Idris, if I can come over to you, what's the importance of leadership in your opinion?
Well, as we know, as humans, we all have opinions, we all have our directions, we all have things we want done. And anytime you need something to be done that's collective, that isn't just for yourself, you're going to have someone who makes the decisions which way you're going to do it. So even the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he told us, anytime you have 3 men on a journey, appoint one to be a leader. Just a simple journey. If we're going to go to Alexandria, all of us, one of us has to be the Emir for the journey. Why? Because this is our nature. We tend to have our own ideas on what's right and what's wrong. So the leader will take shoulder from us, and then he'll make a decision, and we all submit to it, so that things are done effectively. And it's a fundamental thing for us to have a leader.
And I think from that hadith and just from the idea in general, we can also extract the fact that it's understood that each and every one of us will think differently. And each and every one of us will understand the situation and, let's just say the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ differently. And for that very reason, one of us has to be in charge. Because I might have an opinion, you might have an opinion, and he might have an opinion, but how do we move forward? We choose somebody that will make the decision, right? And the other two people's opinions, it could be completely valid. It's just, this is the way forward.
Yes, you won't move forward if you don't. It's the same thing, the analogy of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if there had been more than one God, they would have never agreed on everything. They would have been fighting. So just put more strength on how there has to be someone who leads from the front. Of course, and we'll get into the qualities and a lot more about it later on.
And I've seen the benefit of what you called it in regards to when more than 2 go on a journey that appoint one to lead. Because in America, we've had several brothers go on a trip from, let's say, when I was living in Northern California, and maybe there was like 6 or 7 of us guys, and we're laughing and joking, having a good time as guys do, and we're going to a class in Southern California. And and we're having fun, and we're in our 20s, and we wasted a lot of time, and we're going on a road trip, and a lot of time was wasted, and it took some of the benefit out of what we're doing, and we get sidetracked. And had we appointed somebody to be in charge, and actually halfway through the trip, I did bring up, listen, this is what we're supposed to do. And we did appoint somebody who was, I think, the oldest of us to kind of like take over and be in charge. And it did kind of get us back on track. And, hey, come on, let's speed things up, get to where we're going. We're kind of running behind. We've got other people meeting us where we're going. And it did speed things along. So I have personally seen that hadith in effect that, get things rolling, and it is a benefit in that. But sometimes we don't see it. Sometimes in other situations I've seen where, listen, guys, we're going on a long journey. Let's appoint somebody to be in charge. No, I'm a grown man, and why do I need one of us out of us 3 or 4 to be in charge of me? And then arrogance comes in. He's not going to know what to do. And maybe some kind of ego thing kicks in. Maybe there's some kind of feelings of, I don't need anybody, I don't need this particular guy to tell me what to do. He's going to boss me around the whole way, or whatever comes into play. But There is definitely benefit in that.
I don't know why he's pointing at me, but you know. So I mean, the hadith it's very important. It's not only for journeys. It's not only when you're traveling. Just for anything in general. If you're doing a project, one person should be in charge, because when it comes down to making the final decision, maybe there's two ways of doing it. Which way are we going to do it? Now we can sit here and fight about it, or if we from the beginning had a decision that okay, if we ever come to a decision where two things are in conflict, this person will be in charge and he will tell us which way to go forward. That way things move along smoothly. Ilyas, if I can come to you and ask you the same question, what do you think is the importance of leadership?
I mean, everything's been said already, but the thing that really comes to my mind is that Allah created everyone, you know, as individuals, and everyone has different skills, abilities, strengths and weaknesses. And just naturally, you know, there's going to be some people who are better at some things than others. So if everyone was kept on that same level, then it would be very hard to get our goals or objectives, you know, achieved. You know, Allah asks a question in the Quran: is the blind and the person who can see equal? I mean, they're not. You know, they're both obviously. If when you're blind, you do have skills, but you know, you have different skills. You know, and so. There's a really interesting statement actually, is that that it just popped to my mind now. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. You know, even though he can't see the best, but because he's better than everyone else, even though he might be misguiding people, he's still the best person for that job. So even he's a leader, and you know, he can't do his role properly. So for me, if without leadership, without this natural ability that we've all been given, it's just going to lead to chaos, essentially. You know, and we see this now, for example, in a country where they're fighting over leadership. I mean, that country can't progress. Its economy is going to be poor, life expectancy is going to be short. You know, it's going to be, you know, just chaos all over the place. And, you know, that's on a big example. On a micro level that Brother Idris mentioned, just something very simple, and Bilal touched on it also. You know, just the little things in our lives, because daily we all have tasks that we need to achieve. You know, and they may include people, they may not. But more than likely they will include people. And so without that natural order of things, nothing would get achieved at the end of the day, you know.
Yeah, and that's why even you see it everywhere. Every single institution applies this. Even let's take an example of a school. You'll have people that are math teachers. Then there's the head math teacher. And then you have all the teachers, then there's the head teacher who's in charge of all the other teachers. And then you have the principal, the vice principal. There's an order to the, you know, to the whole institution as a whole. Where go ahead.
And when you see institutions that don't have it, it's very chaotic. I know 3 friends who started a business together, and they did it as a friendship. They didn't decide, okay, you know what, you're going to be the CEO, and we're going to be underneath you as, you know, your deputies. They just figured they were friends. They loved it. They started a business. It was a disaster. It fell apart because each one of them had their own ideas of we should do this way, we should go this. And in the end, they couldn't agree on anything, and they didn't have anyone to you know, facilitate the disagreements. They just decided that, you know what, I'm going to sell you back my parts, and I'm leaving the company, and blah, blah, and it fell apart in the end.
Did they remain as friends?
Luckily they did, because they're Muslims and they kind of have a sort of that bond. But I know probably, I've seen this happen with non-Muslims also, so a few friends, and they hate each other now. So if they don't have a bond outside of it, through something that compels you, it'll drive you to be away from someone.
And it seems like the group of brothers that you mentioned, at least they, and to some extent, they put their religion before it. That's why they remained friends afterwards. But you know, many times people fall into the same situation, and that's it. You know, they're gone. They're not friends anymore. And another thing I wanted to mention was that it's very important for us to remember at the same time that just because somebody wants to do something in a different way doesn't mean his way is wrong. But the idea is so that you can move forward. So there might be 2 ways to do the same task can be done 2 different ways, or you can take about the same mission 2 different ways. But to move forward, you can't sit there and argue about which way you're not going to end up doing the mission. You're not going to end up doing what needs to be done. Whereas if you decide, okay, this person's going to make the decision, he'll weigh both ways of doing it, and then he'll make a decision, which leads us to the next part, which is what are the qualities that this person that's being the leader, being in charge, what should he have? What qualities should he have? Bilal, if we can start with you, inshallah. Or if you want to start with Umar, then we can...
Let's start with our
All right, let's start with Umar. I'll let that.
Okay, so in my opinion, as you said, that when we have different opinions or different ways of getting something, I think the main skill for the leader is to have a great why. What is the reason for this company, or for even the family, or for even three people, like Brother Idris said? If there's a saying that goes like this: if you have a strong why, you will go with any how. Now the how is not going to make a difference between me and my brother Bilal, because we have the same why, we have the reason, we have an ultimate goal in the end. So that's going to unify us, and we are not going to get into the battles of unnecessary stuff like how to get there.
He always comes out with these like interesting sayings. Idris, if we can come to you, inshallah. What do you think are some of the...
There's many qualities, but the first one comes to mind is a hadith I read today about that the Rasulullah said that the people of Jannah are three kinds. One of them is the leader, who is fair. He's adil. He tells the truth. He tells the truth, and he's guided, meaning that he guides and he follows guidance. So, and the hadith goes on further on, but that just reminds me of when you ask me qualities. The first thing that comes to my head is these are some of the most important qualities of a leader. Not from me, from Rasulullah sallallahu
alaihi wasallam. And obviously, you know, the best advice is from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which reminds me of a hadith by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in which he says that the true leader, or the leader that's actually successful, is not the one who's like the boss of people, but the one who's their servant, who serves them. And you know, this hadith is very important and very deep, because whenever you think of leader, you think of the guy in charge, and he's got, you know, the nice seat,
the big boss.
And he's got the big boss, exactly, and he's got the nice office, you know, the corner one with the nice window, you can see all the buildings. But that's what you think. But that's the Prophet ﷺ, that's not the true leader. The true leader is the one, you know, you can see it in some companies, and sometimes when you see a leader that everybody that's working under him loves him. Why? Because he actually serves the people. He leads the people instead of being their boss. Before I get to you, Ilyas, and ask you about the qualities, we're going to watch a short video, so stay tuned.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah.
Hey, I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Scott Williams, and I want to take a few moments to talk to you today about how it is that I manage my staff. And let me tell you, the simple answer to how I manage my staff is this: I don't. You know, I don't manage my staff, I lead my staff. You know, there's been this ongoing debate, ongoing argument over managers versus leaders and what particular category that people may fall into. And so I'm telling you, after reading countless books and being in a number of different leadership roles in both nonprofit organizations, corporations, and I worked in politics and in ministry, I'm telling you, I've definitely witnessed the difference between the two. And I had the opportunity as a young leader to work for, a gentleman who was a great leader. He was the consummate leader. And his name was Marvin Weidman. He taught me some of the best leadership principles, and I really summed it up to this acronym that I call BECK. And he, again, was the consummate leader. And so as I'm sitting here thinking about Marvin, what he did, the B for BECK, it's B-E-C-C, but the B was believe. He always believed in me. He believed in me. He believed in others. And I'm telling you, the E was he encouraged me. He encouraged me to be more, to do more. He was always an encourager. The C is he challenged me. He challenged me to dream big, to think bigger, to do more. He challenged me spiritually, he challenged me professionally. And the last C, probably the most important, is he corrected me. If I got a little bit off balance, he always would correct me and bring me back in line. And I'm going to tell you, as we look at leaders and managers, both have their role. But in their simplest form, here's the deal. Leaders develop followers, and managers manage people and things. And so leaders don't have subordinates because they're in the business, again, of developing followers, in the business of developing other leaders. Where managers, on the other hand, they have to have subordinates. It's all about positional equity and telling subordinate Joe or subordinate Sally to go make this widget and make it in this way. A leader, on the other hand, they're not worried about some positional equity or some formal authority because they know that they're in the business of creating a tribe and developing more leaders. And what we have to understand is that the business of following, it's voluntary. It's a voluntary action. And a lot of times, managers don't even realize this. And so the challenge for most managers, they don't realize that they're managing. They're confusing managing with leadership. And so I'm going to help us to look at these 10 simple category principles and category comparisons that will compare the difference between a manager and a leader. And so the first thing, when it comes to essence, the essence of all of this, managers, they're all about stability. Where a leader, on the other hand, they're all about change. You know, when it comes to rules, managers make the rules, leaders, they break the rules, you know, for the sake of their organization, for the sake of what they're leading. When it comes to approach, you know, it's all about, for managers, all about planning the details. Where a leader, it's about setting the direction, this is where we're going. And when it comes to culture, managers, they execute. And where leaders, they shape the culture. When it comes to conflict, managers oftentimes avoid conflict. Where leaders, they use conflict as an asset because they understand that there's no movement without friction. When it comes to direction, managers like to go down the existing road. I'm going to go this way. This is comfortable. Where leaders, they like to go down new roads. When it comes to credit, managers tend to take credit, where leaders, they give credit to all those around, those who are making it happen. When it comes to decisions, managers makes the decisions, where leaders will generally facilitate the decision. They will encourage and create buy-in in a healthy way. When it comes to vision, managers tell and leaders, they sell. They sell the vision and direction. And this one is really important, the last one, number 10. When it comes to style, managers are generally transactional. And what are the transactions to get this from there? Where leaders, it's about being transformational, transforming people, transforming an organization, transforming a culture. Let me tell you, a great self-assessment for you to determine whether or not you're leading or you're managing is to ask this question. And the question is this: if my position, title, role, or formal authority were removed, would the people that I'm leading still gladly follow me? If you can't answer that question honestly, ask those that are the closest to you to give you a candid answer. Because the reality is that people don't want to be managed. They want to be led. They want to follow a leader. I mean, think about it. You're sitting there right now. You're listening to people. You don't get excited about following world managers. You don't get excited about following business manager, education manager, religious managers. But you do get excited about following world leaders and business leaders and education leaders and religious leaders. Managers change things. Leaders change the world. I'm telling you this, I remember this quote from an Apple commercial. It was a campaign they did in the 1990s, a Think Different campaign. It featured MLK and Picasso and Gandhi and Einstein and others. And the commercial ended with this line. It said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do." Be a world changer. Be a leader.
Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, I'm calling.
Welcome back to Let's Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed that short video clip. Now, before we watched that video clip, we were speaking about some of the qualities of a leader. So, Ilyas, I'm going to let you continue on. What do you think are some of the good qualities a leader should have?
The first thing that comes to my mind is being able to use the skills of the people around you and to get the best end result. Leadership isn't necessarily doing things yourself. In my personal experience, when I was in London, we had an imam who done everything himself. Alhamdulillah, done everything very well. So he was a teacher here, he was a counsellor here, all of the roles. And eventually, you put a lot of stress on yourself. So leadership really is being able to delegate, and get people who can do tasks maybe better than you, or to the same degree, or the same it has the same skill set as you, and getting them to do tasks also. I believe that's very important. Getting people doing fields that they're comfortable doing. And also another thing that comes to mind is being impartial. Not making decisions based on the person telling you. If, for example, Bilal and Idris are telling me something, if I like one of them more, I might just tend to go with, their decision or what their viewpoint is, but that just leads to bias, and then it leads to resentment at the end of the day. So, really, there's many more. But those are the two main points that really come to my mind.
Just to share some of the points that come to my mind, and then I want to get your guys' thoughts on this as well. The first one is knowledge. I think that's where it starts, knowledge. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, that those who know and those who don't know, are they equals?
No, of course not.
And this is not only speaking about religious education. This is in anything. So for example, a person may be the biggest sheikh, but when it comes to fixing AC, he might not know. So هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? That those who know and those who don't know, are they equal in fixing this AC? So every situation in life, somebody might know more than you, and you are not equal in that skill. So I think that's very important. Now, before I mention the second quality that's in my mind, we're going to go for a short break, so stay tuned.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are,
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. قالوا أجئتنا لتأفكنا عن آلهتنا فأتنا بما تعدنا إن كنت من الصادقين.
له ملك السماوات والأرض وإلى الله ترجع الأمور.
فلما رأوه عارضا مستقبل أوديتهم قالوا هذا عارض ممطرنا بل هو ما استعجلتم به.
واذكر أخا عاد إذ أنذر قومه بالأحقاف وقد خلت النذر من بين يديه ومن خلفه ألا تعبدوا إلا الله إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم عظيم.
فيهما عينان نضاختان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
بلاغ فهل يهلك إلا القوم الفاسقون.
Sent from Allah to an angel, then to a man. That man was Muhammad, the best of creation. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah.
Welcome back to Let's Talk. Now, before we went for that short break, we were speaking about some of the qualities of leadership and some of the qualities that a leader should have. And one of the points that came to my mind, and I mentioned it before the break, was knowledge. I think that's one of the most important qualities a leader should have. And we mentioned the verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, that those who know and those who don't know, are they equal? And before I get your thoughts on this, I want to mention my second point, and then I'll get some thoughts from you guys, inshallah, which is wisdom. The second most important thing I think for a leader is probably comes right after knowledge or with knowledge, which is wisdom, because somebody can have all the knowledge in the world, and wisdom is to be able to apply that knowledge appropriately. So you might know, for example, that this can be done in 2-3 different ways. And you have a person asking you, how should I do this? And you know the easiest way for him is to do it this way. So I will tell him, okay, it's to do it this way. This is wisdom. I'm using wisdom to apply the knowledge that I have. Whereas somebody who doesn't have wisdom but has knowledge can tell you, oh, you can do it this way, this way, this way. Now you're going to leave this person confused. Well, I'm not pointing at you, but you're going to leave a person, you're going to leave somebody confused because he asked you for a reason. He needed that leadership skill that you had in you, which was wisdom and knowledge. And that skill needed to be applied to him. He needed that direction. You say, okay, do it this way. So I'm going to let you guys, inshallah, share your thoughts. And Bilal, you haven't shared any of the qualities that came to your mind, so we can start with that, inshallah.
I agree wholeheartedly with knowledge and experience. You have to have that as a leader. I would add that a good leader is one that leads from the front. Someone that is there in the trenches with those that he or she is leading.
Lead by example.
Yes, and they're with them. I'm thinking of also my experience in the military. Those who are there with you, sharing in whatever trials you are with, is down in the dirt with you. They're saying, come on, let's move forward together. I need you to do this action. And they're with you doing those same actions. You respect them because they're there doing the same thing with you and everything that they're sharing in whatever activity that you're doing. And you respect them. Also, a leader that thinks before they give an order, and before they commit to an action, or before they commit you to an action or to a course of action. A thoughtful leader, one of the things before they do something, before they ask you to do something, I think sometimes us as human beings, we make knee-jerk reactions or speech, and we have to be more thoughtful before we do or say a thing.
And just to comment on your first point, I think one of the wisdoms behind that, leading by example, and like you mentioned, in the military you can find this very often, and I think two main reasons, and both of them are dealing with understanding. The first, that the people that you are leading, they can feel that this person understands me. He knows what I'm going through. He knows that this mission is hard, but he's there with me. So whatever decisions he's making, it's through a lens that the same lens that we're looking through. Instead of somebody who's sitting behind a room and said, okay, you guys have to do this, 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 and he doesn't know how it's on the field. He doesn't know the experiences that this person is going through. So the person that's with him and leading by example knows exactly what's going on.
And you'll find that the people that they will be more willing to sacrifice for you and with you wholeheartedly. And they're willing to do anything with you.
Yeah, it's because they can see that you understand their situation. And the second part of understanding their situation is for yourself. As a leader, you can see, okay, you know what? I feel for this guy. I can't put all this workload on him. That's not how it's going to work. I know his position. I've been there. I'm with him here now. And it's impossible to do this. So I can't just command him to do this. So it works both ways.
Yeah.
And that's why they'll move with you in every single way, because they see you're leading by example. You're not just saying, do this. You're actually doing it first, and then they're doing it. If we can go to you, Umar, inshallah.
Sure. Well, the top example for the knowledge and wisdom is the Prophet Muhammad. And what popped in my mind is the Battle of the Trench. So the Prophet was participating in the digging of the trench with the companions. And when they were hungry, he was hungry with them. So he's feeling their pains, as you said exactly. So, and he is experiencing the same workload. So, and that's maybe one of the great reasons. That's why they love the Prophet so much, and they want to defend him by their souls and by their physical bodies. Why? Because as you said, that they believe what he's saying. The Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, is leading by example and is not just telling them you have to go and fight those unbelievers and you have to protect, and he's sitting in the tent or something. No, he's not doing this. So,
and you can see throughout the Prophet ﷺ's life, whenever they had an issue and whenever there was a battle, that the Prophet ﷺ would go with them.
yeah.
He would always be there. He wouldn't just send them from Medina, okay, you guys go fight the battle of Uhud. You guys go fight the
And
battle.
when the battle was very strong, they used to go behind him, the strong companions, to protect themselves. That means that he was the most enthusiastic among them who was fighting when the battle was so strong. And I remember something else about the skills and knowledge. When the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, one of the companions, I think Zayd ibn Thabit, when the Prophet told him, go and learn this certain language. I think it was Hebrew. Why? Yeah. Why did he say this? Because he knows that this person, this companion, is good at languages. And when he knows this, he directs him and says to him, go and learn this language. And he learned it in about 15 or 17 days, something like that. Of course, that means that he had the basics before the language, and that was for a reason to protect the religion, to protect the letters between Muslims and between Jews, and not to change some of the facts and so on. So the Prophet here is not merely having revelations from God, he's teaching us also that he's on the level of being a leader, that he has the knowledge of what's happening around him. He knows that there is a just leader in Ethiopia at that time, and when they are under pressure or under persecution, go to this person. So he knows also geography and knows the demographics and knows that this person you're not going to be persecuted at his rule, even when he's not a Muslim.
And that reminds me of a very commonly throughout the Prophet ﷺ's ahadith, you see that sometimes a companion would come to the Prophet ﷺ and ask him, what's the best deed, or who's the best person? The Prophet ﷺ would reply with different answers.
Yeah.
And then you ask yourself, is this a contradiction?
No.
Over here he said, don't get angry, and another person asked him, don't steal, and another person asked him, and he said, the best of you is the one that's the best to his wives and children. Another person asked him, the best of you is the one that memorizes the Quran. So who's the best person? What's the best deed? And is this
According
a contradiction?
to the situation.
But exactly, and the Prophet ﷺ was a wise man, so he saw this person has anger issues. So he told him, don't get angry, la taghdab. Another person has an issue, might take something that's not his. So he told him, do not steal. So the Prophet ﷺ dealt with each person according to their level and according to their issues, and never gave a judgment to everybody at once. This is the best deed for everybody. That's not true. That's not how it works. And to relate this to nowadays, it's very important, especially when you preach to people. Let's just say, for example, the khatib, the person giving the khutbah, delivering the khutbah, he should know what his society and what his people need.
Yes.
You're not going to sit there and speak about, for example, how to purify a well. That's not what society needs. Society doesn't need to know how many buckets of water to remove if a rat falls in the well, if a cat falls in the well. This is not what's needed. There's no wisdom there.
Sure.
Is there knowledge? Yes, there's knowledge there. Of course, he knows how many buckets to take out when a certain animal dies in the well. But is there wisdom being applied? No. So both of them go side by side. Idris, I'm going to come to you inshallah and get some of your thoughts, and then we'll go to Ilyas inshallah.
Yeah, I just have two more additions of piggybacking off of what you guys said, is that like another example from the Rasul is whenever they were building the masjid in Medina, is how he actually carried the bricks. He didn't just say, okay, build the masjid and build it right here, do it like that. He actually took part in the process of building the bricks. They tried to stop him, and he refused. He continued. This is the way you lead. You have to be a part of it, and he wants to ajr just like you want ajr. He loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even more than us. So, and the second example is of the man, the old man who came and asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam if he could kiss his wife during Ramadan, and he told him, "You can, yeah." And then the young man came and asked him. He said, "Can I kiss my wife during Ramadan?" He said, "You? No. Why? Because this is a perfect example of wisdom. Because the young man, he's young. Without going into the details, he's young. And the old man, he's old. So it's a difference. And more than likely, one would have a lead to disastrous results versus the other one. And the last thing I wanted to say is that I think it's a big, huge deal that a leader learns how to listen to the people he's leading. He needs to listen to them. He needs to have shura. He needs to understand what's going on with them. He doesn't need to look at the situation from afar. He needs to listen to them and have shura and have trusted people come to him and give him the situation the way it is, so that he can make an informed decision. Not just a lot of leaders nowadays. They lead, nations and people, and they don't even know what's going on with the average person. They have no idea. They live behind this glass. And they don't really know what the people are doing. So,
and that's the reason why you find the early Muslim leaders like Umar radiallahu anh used to go, walk through the streets, walk through the markets to make sure and to see how the people are living. Because sometimes when you live in a world that you're just managing the society, you don't actually understand what the average person is going through. So it's very important to associate yourself with them. And this can work on a small scale as well. For example, I'm in charge of my family, right? If I have kids, right? And it's my responsibility to know what they're actually going through. I can't just make rules and say, okay, go to sleep at 7. I don't know how much homework they have. I don't know anything that's going on, and I'm just making a bunch of rules. It doesn't work like that. That's not
like a policeman
efficient. Exactly. Ilyas, we'll go to you, inshallah.
Yeah, you just touched on a point that I wanted to discuss. I mean, traditionally, when we do think of a leader, we think of, a leader of a business, or a leader of an army, or a leader of a country. But in relating to all of the viewers, not everyone's going to be the leader of the biggest company in the world, but we all do have leadership roles, and maybe the viewers, maybe they are parents. And it's important to understand that, having this leadership role is a big responsibility. It's not something we should take lightly. Because we're leading our children into becoming the next generation, essentially, next generation of Muslims, or next generation of doctors, next generation of leaders, exactly. So I just think it's important for myself and for everyone to understand what they're actually leading. And you talked about acquiring knowledge, etc. For example, do we know how to, just going back to parents' example, because I think a lot of people will be leaders in this, inshallah. Do we know how to be good parents? When was the last time how am I going to improve as being a dad? Or how am I going to improve as being a mum? These are things that we do every single day. Sometimes when we discuss leadership, like we do it now, we contact really amazing things. And we need to understand it, because we're going to be in, maybe some of us are going to be in those situations, but just the day-to-day leadership issues. Okay, how can I encourage my child to do his homework? How can I encourage my child to not be ashamed of being a Muslim? These are leadership issues, and these are things that we need to become proficient in. So I think what you said about the knowledge, it can go in so many different directions. It's not just how many rak'ah in this. It's not leadership in that regard. We're talking about life leadership. How can I be leader in my aspect of life? How can I maximize things to the best of my ability and those around me? And I just wanted to emphasize that, because it's very easy for us to just think about the army or the company, but what are we actually leading, and how can we improve? I think well, that's come to my mind now. How can we improve on that what we're leading? How can we maximize?
Is that you coming out with nice quotes?
Just to add on to that, I think if for everyone, like you said, to make it practical, if you want to know how to be a leader of your family, read the seerah. How many times have I said this in every episode?
Yep.
Wallahi, but if you really want to know how to be the best leader of your family, look how he led his family, emulate him, and you will find results beyond belief.
Yeah. And it's not only just reading the seerahs, because many times people say, well, I read the seerah so many times, I don't... It's trying to understand and ponder upon it. Look at the situation. Exactly. So you see everything the Prophet ﷺ did, and then you think to yourself, why did he do it in this way?
If you don't know, find out from someone.
Exactly. And then try to search for why he acted a certain way in a certain situation. What's the reason behind it? Because nothing was random in the life of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the key. Nothing was random. Every single thing that he did was for a purpose. So if he did something in a certain particular and specific way, it was for a reason. And that's what you need to think about when you read the seerah. Because many times people say, well, I've read the seerah, I still can't find how to solve my problems. Well, you didn't read the seerah. You didn't understand the seerah. You didn't try to figure out why the Prophet ﷺ did certain things in certain ways. I mean, Ilyas, you already started off with the last part of what I wanted to cover, which was how to start, being a better leader, we can say, in all aspects, whether you're a leader of a company. And what you started us off with was wonderful. It's one of the most important things of how to start being a leader, which is to question yourself. How can I be a better, and then ... whatever it may be. How can I be a better mother? How can I be a better father? How can I be a better manager? Whatever the situation may be, it's how can I be a better, and then ... And put yourself in whatever, as a friend, how can I be a better friend? Whatever it may be. And then it doesn't even have to be how can I be, how can I ...
Yes.
So how can I help this person? How can I... That's the question you need to put to yourself in every single situation. Another point that comes to my mind is organizing yourself. To lead others, it starts with yourself. So if you yourself are not organized, then how do you expect to lead others? So I'm going to get you guys' thoughts on this, and maybe if you guys have any points you want to share about how a person can start being a better leader and how he can take that initiative. Bilal, if we can start with you, inshallah. Or you want to start with Omar? Omar, go ahead, you can start.
Okay, I just have a quote, something
Sure.
came into my mind also.
Yeah.
Tell me...
The quote man.
The quote man. The quote man?
Well, we got 3 minutes, so we can
Hopefully no dogs get shocked and...
Oh, no. I stopped.
Okay, you stop shocking animals, thank you.
The dog torture, So, tell me, and I'll forget. Okay? Show me, and I may remember. Engage with me, and I will understand.
And shock me and I'll do it right.
No.
So,
This is the only way I'm going to understand if you make me engage with you. Not to tell me or to show me presentations and how everything is going to be nice in the house, company, or so on. Make me have a role in what you're doing.
Yeah, that's very important. And that's exactly what our conversation was, going about. That engaging with people and understanding those you're leading. I'm going to come over to you guys. We have about a minute or two left, so inshallah you guys can share some points.
For me, I guess the same thing would be revolving around sort of what I said already, is that find out how the people, their needs, and find out about how they feel about you. If you maybe you can't ask them because people sometimes don't want to, tell a leader, I can't stand you. Of course, but find your own ways of finding out how the feeling of the people, so that you can address it. And you'll know if you're disliked, why? Find out why.
Yeah, and that's
what are you doing?
The questions Ilyas put. How can I? So if you find out that you're disliked, there's a reason behind it.
What are you doing that that you're so disliked? So this will help you be a better leader because you're honest with yourself, as Omar said. Hold yourself accountable before Allah holds you accountable. So this is part of our daily thing we should be doing, not only in leadership but in our lives. Period.
Yeah. Ilyas, what do you want to end it
Just
off?
briefly, the Prophet ﷺ told us that in Allah kataba al-ihsana ala kulli shay. Allah has prescribed excellence in everything that we do. So even if it's leadership or being led, we just need to always ask ourselves that question, always reflect, and try to be the best people as possible. And that's very generic and no flowers and. But it's important that we, even though it seems silly and obvious, it's still something we need to emphasize in our lives.
It's not obvious because a lot of people, believe it or not, people don't do this.
Exactly.
They don't do things to the best of their ability.
The reason why, because it's obvious, because they assume, I have to be doing it anyway, but because it's so obvious, they don't do it.
They forget about it.
All right, so I'm going to start off end the program by starting. I'm going to end the program by thanking you guys first. So thank you guys for joining me here on Let's Talk. Dear viewers, I hope you guys benefited and enjoyed today's program, and join us for many more programs on Let's Talk, and don't forget to check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And until then, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah. You are Allah, Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah. mercy is great.